Greetings. Hi, my name is Phil Tedeschi. I'm a clinical professor here at the Graduate School of Social Work. I'm also the director of the Institute for Human-Animal Connection and also coordinate the Animal Assisted Social Work program. And it's really nice to meet you, but I have to tell you one of my all-time favorite assignments is this class, Social Work in Kenya, which I've taught over the last 7 years. So if you're interested in this at the end of this little discussion, please feel free to come visit with me and I'll tell you much more about it. So they might say in Swahili, wewe ni kuwa karibisha hapa, and that means you're welcome in this place. And you are. You're welcome at Graduate School of Social Work, and you're welcome to come visit me in person. So this course focuses on the relationship between humans, animals, and the environment. At our program, we study that a lot, especially if you are one of those students interested in the Sustainable Development and Global Practice program or the Animal Assisted program. This is the course for you. You may and sometimes hear it referred to as under the concept of conservation social work. But in bigger circles, places like the United Nations, often you'll hear this referred to as One Health, sometimes even One Medicine. So we're studying these relationships in part because they help us understand how to advocate for individuals, families, and communities in any place in the world. So I don't want to get overly complex here, but let me just say briefly how this might look. As we start to understand that protecting our biodiversity and having healthy ecological systems, we also promote human well-being. So by supporting good, healthy ecological system services, we recognize that we then start to have things like access to fresh water and adequate food security, and things like climate regulation that supports well-being of communities. When we start to see those things in jeopardy, we start to see an increase in human security and human health problems. And this is true anywhere in the world, but it's nowhere even more evident than in East Africa. So in our program, you'll start by arriving in Nairobi, Kenya, at the Kenyatta Airport. Within 10 hours of arriving in Nairobi, and Nairobi, by the way, lies right in the Rift Valley, you're going to find yourself in the second biggest slum in the world. Kibera, Kenya is located right in the heart of Nairobi. According to the United Nations, it's the highest density population environment anywhere in the world. About 1 million people living in an area the size of Central Park. Now, there's many issues that face persons living in the slums. In many cases, it's particularly dangerous for children due to public health issues, disease, and violence. There's many issues we could be working on. The program that we work on focuses on the empowerment of young women. And the reason that we do that is that the most well-documented evidence-based method for disrupting an intervention into deep poverty is the education of young women. So we work with the Kibera Girls Soccer Academy, which is a free high school that's directed at supporting young women who have the lowest socioeconomic capabilities, but the highest academic potential. So as a student, you would help chart a course with these students to help them find a way to exit a life living in the Kibera slums. Within 2 days, we're looking outside of the urban centers of Nairobi into rural Kenya, where we work on numerous community development and infrastructure projects, education activities, numerous health programs, and you'll begin to get to know the challenges facing not only the urban centers, but also the rural parts of East Africa. An example of one of these projects is the Kisigaw Women Basket Weavers, who weave these beautiful handmade baskets made out of sustainable sisal, grown right in their own community. And our program assists them in the marketing of these products in North America through the African Network for Animal Welfare and the African Network for Animal Welfare USA. These women, through their collaborative, have demonstrated that they can create stability in their own communities and in their own families, and in turn also create well-being for the environment, because as families have more income, there is less impact on the community in form of things like charcoal burning and charcoal sales, poaching initiatives that put pressure on animals, and that sort of thing. You'll have a chance to get to know these communities really very personally. In fact, many of our students at the end of their home visit are calling their parent mama. They've learned to care for their farm that they call the shamba, the gardens. They learn how to cook the traditional meals and become part of those families. We also use innovation to collect and gain community support. And just as you thought it was all work, nope, we're off to a good football match. So what you're looking at here is my car with about 80 soccer balls that get transported over, and we use them for community development, things like developing specialized roots and shoots wildlife clubs and conservation youth groups, and to teach other forms of education. We also work extensively in anti-poaching and animal welfare, and the pictures you're seeing here are all taken within the last year of animals that were rescued as part of our course. You're seeing in the upper right-hand corner of Snare being cut off of a live zebra who was tranquilized because it was the only way to remove this snare. But you're also seeing in the other pictures baby elephants and a baby hippo who are victims of the pressures of poaching that has killed their families. We want you to understand animal sentience and the recognition that healthy animals and healthy biodiversity tends to be a resiliency factor that predicts healthy communities. Here you have a student meeting a young adolescent elephant who's beginning to get introduced to the wild herds of Tsavo National Park in southern Kenya. And on the right, you're really seeing the very tragic story of a 3 or 4 month old baby struggling through the pain and trauma of watching his family murdered. These are babies that wake up in the night with nightmares and have to be fed regularly, and they bond with their human keepers. But at some point, we attempt to see them reintroduced to the wild herds when that's possible. About 50% of all babies under these circumstances die simply of grief. So you get to participate in this active and important work. So in the lower left-hand corner, you see Johnson, our fantastic team member, holding about 250 snares that we took down in a matter of a single day. The other pictures are students involved in active, real-life live rescues. On the top left, a wildebeest having a snare removed from its back legs, and on the right, a hartebeest who has lost all the air out of its torso because it has a snare around its rib cage. We had to do artificial respiration in order to give it back a chance for life. We work closely with the Kenyan Wildlife Service at these intervention projects, and we also want you to begin to explore ways to support communities to live alongside the wildlife in constructive ways. So one of the things that we encourage social workers, conservation social workers to do is understand intervention projects like the Elephant and Bee Project that promotes farmers using beehives as ways of protecting their crops, so that we're not only protecting farmers and their food sources, but also the animals themselves. We do numerous sustainability projects, tree planting, sustainable farming initiatives, reforestation efforts, and watershed protection. These are important aspects of this course, and you'll be able to see and look at and participate in constructive efforts of supporting each of these East African communities. Now, it's said that when you release an animal from a snare or save its life, that it'll thank you. Here's the very hartebeest that you saw earlier, and here's what it did once we released it. You've covered it. Yeah.
It's thanking us. Can't just believe it.
Thank you. Thank you for your time today. Thanks for your interest in this topic. Thanks for coming to GSSW, and as they would say in Swahili, asante sana. I look forward to meeting each of you in person.